Senator Blunt Rochester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses. I really welcome this hearing and the opportunity for serious, sustained engagement in digital asset market structure. This is enormously complex and could fundamentally reshape the bones of our economy. We've already seen what happens when digital finance grows without guardrails. The collapse of FTX, Terra Luna, and Celsius wiped out billions in consumer savings and exposed glaring regulatory gaps. When regulation lags innovation, real people get hurt. At a time of rising prices and growing wealth inequality, I'm sure that we can all agree that the last thing we need is to rush or have a poorly designed market structure bill. And at the same time, I strongly believe in innovation. That's why I joined Senators Moreno and he to introduce the bipartisan Deploying American Blockchains Act. And I support a bipartisan, thoughtful, transparent, and inclusive process, especially for legislation that could shape the future of U.S. capital markets. My first question is for you, Mr. Painter. What are the risks if Congress moves forward too quickly in legislating without broad input and clear understanding of market consequences? And how do we ensure that this process produces a bipartisan framework that can stand the test of time?
Hey, Patriots. Welcome back to America First, your home for no-nonsense conservative commentary on the issues that matter most to our great nation. If you're tired of watching Washington destroy American innovation while China races ahead, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that puts America first. We got over 50,000 patriots in our community, and we're growing every day. Today, I'm reacting to a Senate hearing on digital asset regulation. And folks, what I witness here is exactly what's wrong with Washington. We've got Democrats like Senator Blunt Rochester and their so-called expert witnesses pushing the same tired playbook of more government control, more regulation, and more barriers to American innovation.
The risk is that we repeat the experience of regulating the banks in the 1920s and the depression that followed, 10 years of depression. The risk is that we repeat what happened in 2008 when campaign contributions poured into Congress from the securities-based swap industry, elsewhere in the financial services industry, and we had decades of deregulation. The economy collapsed. Millions of American families losing their homes, people unemployed. We've been through this again and again. And this Congress needs to get it right this time and carefully read this bill and listen to witnesses, including the witnesses who might not disagree. And instead of the personal attacks that I've experienced today, some dignity from this Senate, care in drafting this bill and thinking about the American people you represent. We do not want another economic collapse caused by deregulation of the financial services sector. And I want to ask you all, do you understand the bill? Have you listened to all sides? And are you willing to allow the regulators to use their expertise to watch what's going on in this sector, as Chairman Massad has suggested that you should? Please. We don't want to go through those experiences again.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. You show why this is so vital that we get this right, because it will touch all of us. Mr. Massad, some proposals would let crypto companies decide for themselves which rules apply and which regulator they'd answer to. And that sounds a lot like the businesses picking their own cop on the beat, so to speak. How should Congress design a system that applies the rules fairly and earns the public's trust?
Well, I think Congress should think in terms of principles, not trying to write detailed rules, because I think those can quickly become obsolete. I think number two, Congress does need to fill the gap in regulation that we've talked about with respect to the use of this technology for things that aren't securities. But, you know, to your point about the problems here, I mean, the problem with a lot of the proposals is that they try to write detailed rules that I don't think are going to provide the clarity, and I think will provide a lot of opportunities for simply evasion of their intent. I respect the goals. The goal is clarity. We all want that. But I think you've got to be very careful about how you achieve that.
Some people talk about regulatory standards for centralized systems, that they're inappropriate for crypto because it's inherently decentralized. But many of these protocols are run by centralized teams that control governance, the incentives, and even the code. So how should Congress decide when a so-called decentralized protocol acts more like a centralized financial intermediary and regulated as such?
I think the principle Congress should have is just because it's decentralized doesn't mean it's free of regulation. Regulation may be different, but for example, if we had a decentralized protocol that became the primary market for trading Treasury securities, we would not say, oh, because it's a decentralized protocol, we don't need to worry about regulation. So I think we may need different rules, but we still need rules.
Thank you so much. I yield back.
Let me break down what really happened in this hearing. Senator Blunt Rochester starts off by fear-mongering about FTX, Terra Luna, and Celsius. Now, don't get me wrong. Those were serious failures and people lost money. But here's what she's not telling you. FTX collapsed because of outright fraud by Sam Bankman-Fried, not because of lack of regulation. We already have laws against fraud and theft. The problem wasn't that we needed more rules. The problem was that existing laws weren't being enforced properly. And let's talk about who Sam Bankman-Fried was donating millions to. That's right, Democrats. He was the second largest donor to Democrat causes after George Soros. So when Democrats cry about FTX now, remember they were happy to take his money when it suited their political agenda. This witness, Mr. Painter, then has the audacity to compare crypto innovation to the 1920s banking crisis and 2008 financial meltdown. This is classic Democrat fear tactics. They want you to believe that American entrepreneurs and innovators are somehow going to crash the entire economy if we don't let bureaucrats in Washington micromanage every aspect of the digital asset space. But here's the real issue, patriots. While we're sitting here debating whether Americans should be allowed to innovate, China is moving full speed ahead with their digital yuan. They're not worried about overregulation killing innovation because they understand that whoever controls the future of digital currency controls the future of the global economy. The Democrats want to create a system where crypto companies have to beg permission from Washington bureaucrats for every single business decision. Mr. Massad talks about not letting companies choose their own regulators, but that's exactly backwards. Competition between regulators creates better outcomes and more innovation. When states compete for business, they create better regulatory environments. The same principle applies here. And this whole obsession with centralization versus decentralization misses the point entirely. The beauty of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is that it gives individual Americans more control over their own financial lives. It reduces dependence on big banks and government-controlled monetary systems. That's why authoritarian regimes hate it, and why freedom-loving Americans should embrace it. What really bothers me about this hearing is the complete dismissal of American exceptionalism. These Democrats act like American entrepreneurs, and innovators can't be trusted to build responsible systems. They act like we need to copy the regulatory approaches of other countries, instead of leading the world with American innovation. The witness talks about regulatory standards being inappropriate for crypto because it's decentralized, but then immediately pivots to saying we need rules anyway. This is a classic Washington two-step. They create a problem, then propose government as a solution, then expand government power regardless of whether their solution actually works. Here's what a real America First approach to crypto regulation would look like. First, we enforce existing laws against fraud and theft. We don't need new regulations when current laws already cover criminal behavior. Second, we create clear, predictable rules that allow American companies to compete globally without bureaucratic interference. Third, we make sure that whatever framework we create helps American companies compete against China and other authoritarian regimes, not handicap them. The Democrats keep talking about protecting consumers, but their real goal is protecting the existing financial system that benefits big banks and government control. Cryptocurrency threatens that system because it gives regular Americans more financial freedom and independence. And let's be honest about something else. The same Democrats who are demanding strict regulation of crypto are the same ones who want to eliminate cash, push digital IDs, and create central bank digital currencies that would give government complete control over every financial transaction you make. They don't want to protect you from crypto. They want to make sure government maintains control over your money. This hearing perfectly illustrates why we need more Republicans in the Senate who understand that American innovation, not government regulation, is what makes our economy strong. We need leaders who trust American entrepreneurs to build better systems, not politicians who assume that more government control is always the answer. The bottom line is this, patriots. The future of money is digital, and that future is going to be built either by free Americans operating in competitive markets or by authoritarian governments that use digital currency to control their populations. The choice we make about crypto regulation today will determine which path America takes. We can either lead the world in financial innovation, or we can regulate ourselves into irrelevance while China and other competitors race ahead. I know which choice puts America first, and I hope you do too. That's all for today's video. Patriots, if you found this analysis helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more America First content. Share this video with fellow patriots who care about preserving American innovation and financial freedom. And remember, the fight for America's future isn't just happening in Washington. It's happening in every conversation we have about the direction of our country. Stay strong, stay informed, and keep putting America first. I'll see you in the next video.